Muratile was a beautiful young woman, well known in Mabopane for living recklessly as though consequences did not apply to her. By the age of 29, she was already a mother of 10 children, the eldest just 14 and the youngest only 3 months old. She had given birth to her first child at the age of 14. Stories about her difficult, vulnerable upbringing traveled far and wide through the township, painting a picture of a young woman shaped by hardship long before she ever had a chance to choose differently. One morning, she sat under the big peach tree outside her RDP house with her youngest son on her lap and her best friend Kilebuhile beside her, just like they did most days. But today her mind was racing. They had just finished watching an episode of I Blew It, and something in that story had taken her thoughts down a dangerous path. In the episode, a man bragged about how he had squandered millions of rands he'd received from the road accident fund. What struck Ora wasn't his regret or his foolishness. It was the idea of easy money, the possibility, the shortcut. At first, Kelly laughed it off, thinking Ora was just talking nonsense the way she sometimes did. But when she looked at her friend's face and realized Ora was completely serious about her plan, a cold panic rose in her chest. "You'll see," Ora said, her voice steady in a way that made Gilles' stomach twist. "I'm going to do it." "But it's a crime," Gilebuhile protested, her eyes widening. "What if you die, Mohotsi? Don't talk like that. The man we saw on TV had a real accident." Ora shrugged, almost casually. "I know, but I'm sure many people do it exactly the way I'm planning to." Kelly's heart dropped. "Ora, an accident is something that happens by mistake, not something you plan on purpose. As far as I'm concerned, you are applying for death. I'm sure the Road Accident Fund investigates claims before paying anyone. If you do this deliberately, I won't support it. You're not thinking straight, are you?" "Actually," Ora said quietly, "for the first time in my life, I'm thinking straight. I'm thinking with my head now, not just my heart and emotions." Kilebuhile shook her head, her voice softening. "My friend, you've always thought with your head. That's what I admire about you. You've been responsible enough to take your ARVs so that you can live for your children. That's something many people wouldn't manage. But who will care for them if you go to prison, or worse, if you die? Your youngest is only 3 months old." Ora turned to her, eyes steady but troubled. "They are the reason I'm doing it, Kelly. I'm doing it for my children. You know their fathers are not present in their lives." Kelly looked into her friend's eyes, searching for the Ora she knew. "But why do you keep having children?" she asked gently. "Don't get me wrong. Everyone in this township knows how deeply you've been hurt. The men who abused you are in prison now, and we all know what you survived. But it has to stop, Ora. Most men lie, my friend. Believe their actions, not their words." She sighed, her voice trembling with worry. "People say girls Molokshini have little hope because so many leave school when they fall pregnant. But you must not do something that could kill you and leave your children as someone else's burden." Ora's jaw tightened. "Well, I don't have a choice," she said, her voice low and bitter. "Do you know what the father of my youngest child said to me?" "No, I don't know what he said," Gilly whispered. Ora's voice trembled, the words scraping out of her. "He asked why he should stay and be my savior when the fathers of my other children had already left. As painful as it was to hear, he wasn't lying. He only has one child with me, but I've 10 children whose fathers all walked away. I have to find a better future for my children, Gilly. I can't keep struggling like this." Gilly searched her friend's face, trying to reach the part of Ora that still believed in life. I understand, my friend. I really do. But I'm sure you can plan for them without turning to crime or depending on more men who disappear the moment responsibility arrives. Aura's face tightened. Kelly, you're the last person who should judge me. The whole township judges me. I hear it every day, especially right here in our own street. But I never planned to have 10 children out of wedlock by the age of 29. Kelly leaned forward and wrapped her arms around Ora and the baby, holding them both as if she could shield them from the world. When she finally sat back down, her voice softened to a whisper. Is that why you've been drinking so much lately, my friend? Yes, and you know exactly why, Ora said, her voice cracking. You know my life and the struggles I carry. Kelly sighed, her worry deepening. I'm sorry if I sound insensitive, my friend. I'm not trying to judge you. I just want us to think of another way to deal with everything you are facing. I'm trying, Ora insisted. I sometimes play cards just to put bread on the table when I win. And when I get a good dream, I play more China. It used to help, but these days I hardly remember my dreams. Gambling is still gambling, Ora, Gele said softly. It isn't a plan. I know, Ora whispered, but these days I can't even find work as a helper. I'm uneducated, and you know the life we come from. Cleaning other people's houses used to keep women like us going, but now fewer people can afford to hire help. Wages are higher, UIF contributions cost more, and most people just clean their own houses. It's hard, Shoma. With 10 children, it's even harder. Gele nodded slowly. Maybe you could start selling something. With what money? Ora shot back, frustration spilling over her. Where would I get stock and who would buy it? Unless I become the stock myself. She let out a bitter laugh that made Kelly's heart ache. Look around this township. People don't have money. Do you think I enjoy coming to you for a cup of sugar, a bowl of mealie meal, or a few tea bags for my children and me? Things are bad, Choma. Very bad. I know you hate having to ask, my friend, Gilly said softly. That's exactly why I'm trying to find a better solution with you. Ora shook her head. You don't need to help me think of another plan because I already have one. If I do this thing right and people believe the accident, my children will have a future. I've tried Lotto over and over, but this feels more certain. Please understand, Gele. Gele stared at her stunned. I don't understand how a planned accident or men who don't care about you will help you or your children. You keep taking dangerous risks. That's easy for you to say, Ora snapped, pain rising in her voice. You married, and your husband accepted you and your child. Of course, you can point fingers. Gilly shook her head. Not really. You've seen for yourself that men don't stay because of the many children you have. They stay for what they can get, then leave without caring about you or the children. Yup, that's harsh, Ora whispered. But maybe I do need a strong talking to, because why do I always meet the same kind of men? At first, they seem genuine, gentle, charming, kind, just like Tsepo's father. Even you trusted him. We both believed that this time everything would finally work out. You even encouraged me to accept his proposal because you were so sure that he would marry me. Her voice broke. Then 4 children later, I saw on Facebook that in his Easter trip home, he actually went to get married to a woman in Limpopo that I didn't even know existed. If I hadn't seen it myself, I would never have known. He did me dirty, Kelly. I've been through a lot. I know you've been hurt, Kelly said softly, but that still doesn't make crime right. Ora sighed, frustration and desperation mixing in her voice. I know you're worried, but I would never risk dying. There must be a way others have done this safely. If I can avoid getting badly hurt, I could get rough money and give my children a better future. Kele rubbed her forehead. I don't know what more to say. Aish, Sasaman doesn't go far, Ora continued. Do you even know how much each child gets? 580, Kele said. Yes, people think I must be managing because I have 10 children, but 580 rand is not enough even for one. Everything costs too much. Please try to understand me, my friend. I'm trying, Kele said, her voice tightening with worry. But it's hard to understand you when you are talking about becoming a criminal. I don't know you like this, Ora. Ora looked away, her eyes clouding. What hope do I have when even someone as respectable as Ntibeng promised to marry me but gave me a child and still ran away? Kelly's face hardened. Don't remind me of that scoundrel. Do you remember how quickly he put a ring on my finger? Ora asked, her voice trembling. He was the first man ever to do that, and I was on cloud 9. I never liked him, Kelly said firmly. He abused you, and you stayed with him far too long. I still don't understand why. Ora swallowed hard. I thought I was fine because he accepted me and my children. But everything changed when a strange woman phoned me at the clinic while I was there with my baby. She asked how I knew Tibeng, and when I said he was my man, she said, Did he tell you he has a wife? What shocked me even more was that she was calling from his phone. Kele gasped softly. I was humiliated in public. Ora continued. At the time, I was wearing his ring and pregnant with his child. I later found out the expensive car he drove had been bought by that woman. So please, Kele, don't judge me for what I'm about to do. Kele shook her head. Ora, life is not a TikTok we listen, we don't judge challenge. Of course, people will judge you. Today you are harsh, Kele, Ora muttered. You know that some men make empty promises. Maybe, Kele replied, but it's still your choice whether to believe them. You know I have one child because I chose not to have more until I married. Anyway, it's your life, my friend. I must go before my mother-in-law wonders where I am. I need to help her with spring cleaning before our weekend visitors arrive. Okay, my friend, Ora said quietly. Just pray for me because I'm going to do it. That rough money is our tax money, so it's not a crime, like you said. Pray for you to sin? Kelly asked, stunned. Are you thinking straight? You know I'm against it. I'll pray that you forget this idea. The friends parted. Kelly went home, and Ora kept herself busy with chores outside, but her mind never left the plan. Ora remained fixated on what she believed was her only chance. Eventually, she acted on it. As she crossed the road, she pretended not to see a speeding car, intending for it to graze only her toes. She had left her son safely on the sidewalk, but in a split second, he was drawn into the tragedy. When Ora woke in a high care hospital bed, machines surrounded her, tubes ran across her body, her memory was foggy, and she could not recall what had happened. Terrifying dreams of her children crying out for her jolted her awake. In those nightmares, she tried to reach them but could not move. That same week, Kele stood grieving at the funeral of her friend and the child. When she faced the mourners gathered for the night vigil, emotion overwhelmed her and she broke down in tears. People had said many things about Ora, some kind, some critical. Kele stood there wondering what she could possibly add. In the end, she knew there was only one thing she could do: honor her friend's memory with honesty and compassion. My name is Kele, she began softly. I grew up with Ora. She was my best friend. Even though we did not always see eye to eye, her struggles were mine as well as mine hers. Tears blurred her vision and weakened her voice. When she could no longer continue, one of the congregants began a song, and the rest of the congregation gently joined in. When the singing ended, Gele gathered herself and continued speaking. This is a tragedy, she began, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry through the room. But my family and I have decided to take in her 9 children. A murmur rippled through the mourners. I've heard people judge Ora for having 10 children today, she continued. People spoke as though they knew the full story of her life. But my mother taught me to keep quiet and let people be. And as Jesus said, let the one without sin cast the first stone. None of us is perfect. She paused, swallowing hard. Like all of us, Ora was looking for love. She learned too late how dangerous it can be to trust the wrong people, especially men who run from responsibility. But she was a good mother. None of her children's fathers supported them. She carried that burden alone and did everything she could for them. Gele wiped her eyes. We are not better than her. We all have our weaknesses, so her children will grow up with my children in a warm home. I will help them. I will love them. They are mine now. The congregation shifted, some nodding, others crying openly. And I'm going to start a children's home, she said, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. Even if I don't know how yet, because there are many Oras in our township. It was never in my plan, and I don't know where to begin. But I will find out. My family and I have discussed this at length. Our community needs it. There are too many stranded single women here in Mabopane. It is time for us to do something. She took a deep breath. Thank you. When Kelly stepped away from the podium, not a single eye in the room was dry. Her words had moved the entire gathering, cutting through judgment, pain, and gossip, leaving only truth, compassion, and a call to action. For years, people had judged Ora. They whispered about her 10 children. They mocked her choices. They shook their heads as if they understood her life better than she did. But not once had they gathered the courage to speak about the real monsters in her story. Those Lokshan uncles, some of their own relatives who had violated her when she was still a child. They had turned their eyes away from the pain of a young girl being assaulted by grown men. They had ignored the devastation that shaped her life long before she ever became a mother. Yes, some of those men eventually faced jail time, but the community found it easier to judge her than to see her as a victim. Easier to blame the child who grew into a wounded woman than confront the adults who broke her. Gillet's words forced them to face their prejudice, forced them to confront the truth they had buried under gossip, forced them to see Ora not as a cautionary tale, but as a human being who had been failed long before she failed herself. After the funeral, Gele and her family went on to establish Gele's Children's Home. With support from local social services and funding from major organizations, including the National Lottery, the project began to grow quickly. By the end of that year, more than 50 children were in her care. The need was far greater than the available resources, but Kele refused to stop there. With her husband's help, she launched the Oratile Children's Fund in her friend's honor to support children the home could not accommodate. Additional government funding also helped extend their reach. The end.